Hi, welcome to your Racist of the Month compilation. My name is Reese Waters. Now, this is typically where we're exposed to stupidity and hypocrisy of discrimination in hopes we can build a more perfect union and also laugh. As usual, I would like to thank this month's sponsor, Racism, and mention if you have any suggestions for nominees, you can drop them in the comments or leave them at reese@reesewaters.com. Now, naturally, any month that has an election in it, especially a presidential election, is going to be rife with racism. But 2024 was a whole nother thing. The channel. Today's nominee, we've been here before, Elon Musk. No, not for that.
15 black former or current employees filed a lawsuit against Tesla on Thursday. The California suit alleged they were subjected to racial abuse and harassment at its factories.
No, not that either.
Elon Musk posted on X that, quote, DEI must die.
Not even that.
Elon Musk was found guilty by the New York Times of being born in South Africa when apartheid was going on.
Today's nomination came from you guys' submissions to me in my email. This particular story from Wired. Let's dig in. Workers say they were tricked and threatened as part of Elon Musk's Get Out the Vote effort. Now, we have already heard challenges to the legality of Elon Musk's various schemes in order to install Donald Trump as president. And before I move forward, I would like to once again reiterate something that I said after Kamala's closing pitch to America. Middle class, lower middle class, lower class. What is it that you think would so benefit Elon Musk that he will go to these lengths that you feel like would help you too? Think about it. We'll circle back to it at the end. America PAC door knockers were flown to Michigan, driven in the back of a U-Haul, and told they'd have to pay hotel bills unless they met unrealistic quotas. One was even surprised they were working to elect Donald Trump. Quote, I was in shock and disbelief, says a paid door knocker flown to Michigan to help turn out the vote for former President Donald Trump on behalf of Elon Musk's America PAC. Now, this is curious because Trump is always asserting how massively popular he is. And I just can't imagine you would have to somehow try and trick people in order to canvass on his behalf. Isn't this the guy that says, what, 85% of America is with him? But yet these are the lengths that you have to go to for ground level support in Michigan. Got it. Canvassers and paid door knockers for the former president, contracted by a firm associated with America PAC, have been subjected to poor working conditions. A number of them have been driven around in the back of a seatless U-Haul van, according to video obtained by Wired, and threatened that their lodging at a local motel wouldn't be paid for if they didn't meet canvassing quotas. One door knocker alleges that they didn't even know they were signing up for anything having to do with Musk or Trump. So if I got this straight, these people who are, such value constituents to the MAGA movement, getting out the word for Donald Trump, are so well preserved. You have them in the back of a seatless U-Haul and threaten that they won't have their lodging if they don't meet these unrealistic quotas. That is quite literally how they feel about their constituency. I mean, really, like, strip away the identity, and we'll get to that. Strip away that part. That just really shows you, in a nutshell, how they feel about their constituency. And it pretty much also dovetails with what I've seen and heard about the working conditions under Elon Musk, for that matter. A representative from Musk and America PAC did not return a request for comment. Now that's odd, because I would think that if these are the kinds of conversations that people are having, if this is a story that's on the precipice of getting out, and you know full well that you have gone to great lengths in order to preserve the life, liberty, and happiness of those people that are working to spread the Maga movement, you will want nothing more than to dispute those claims as loudly and visibly as possible. Or you just don't return requests for comment. The contract these door knockers signed with Blitz Canvassing, which is a subcontractor of Musk America PAC, said they are expected to maintain a 17 to 22% engagement rate during the campaign, which is a high target relative to the number of people who typically open their door for a stranger. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me that they were expected to maintain a 17 to 22% engagement rate, which is relative to the number of people that are opening their door and engaging with a stranger? 17 to 22%. I need to meet the 17 to 22%. That's who I need to meet. I need to understand who the 17 to 22% is that is actively engaging with strangers knocking on their door in 2024. In fact, forget all of these polls, these undecided groups that we see all over cable news, on CNN, on MSNBC, on Fox News. I need to talk to the 17 to 22%. I have so many things I want to ask them. Like, what were you doing before you just opened up the door? Like, were you literally just sitting in the house lonely, just waiting for any kind of human contact? I have all kinds of questions. Were you so disgusted by The Price is Right, you just had to talk about it with somebody? A group of out-of-state America PAC canvassers were told during a recent team meeting that if they didn't hit their targets, which the door knocker says were more than 1,000 a week on total doors knocked, the organization would stop paying for their motel rooms. Quote, what's going to happen is they're going to stop paying for these rooms, a manager told the door knockers in an audio recording obtained by Wired, and then you're going to end up having to pay for it yourself. You can't do that with no money. The door knocker also alleges that they were told that they will have to pay for their own flight home. Now help me with something. Is this a job or is it not a job? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Are they volunteers or is this a job? Because if this is a job, you owe them based on them showing up and doing the job, regardless of whether or not the person on the other end of the door desperately wants human contact or not. Like, regardless of whether or not they watching old reruns of A Current Affair on VHS tapes and they wanted somebody else to share it with, regardless of any of that, if this is a job, you owe them that. Now, if they are in fact volunteers, then I would ask, why is it that they are apparently unaware that they're working on behalf of Donald Trump? If you're just giving out the lodging out of the goodness of your own heart, why are they unaware of the greater goals and ideals that their hard work, blood, sweat, and tears is moving towards? I got lots of questions. I got lots of, no comment. I figured you would say that, Elon Musk. I figured you would say that, which is interesting because you seem to have a lot of comment at MSG. There was too much comment. There's too much comment at MSG. Blitz Canvassing, which had received more than $9 million from America PAC for presidential campaign canvassing as of October 29th, did not immediately reply to a request for comment. One of the canvassers, who was flown in from outside the Midwest, tells Wired they had no idea they would be knocking on doors in support of Trump, or that the subcontractor they were working for was a part of Elon Musk's voter turnout operation through America PAC. Quote, I knew nothing of the job or much of the job description other than going door to door and asking the voters who they're voting for, says a door knocker who was one of the people in the back of the van and who was requesting anonymity because they signed a non-disclosure agreement. Then after I signed over an NDA is when I found out we are for Republicans and with Trump. Now here's a question. So I just gave you two potential options, whether or not this is a job or whether or not this is, in fact, a volunteer situation, in which case you would have less legal obligations to the people under your charge. But if that's the case, why would you need an NDA? I have never signed an NDA for a volunteer position. So that leads me to this being a job and them being due what's owed by virtue of what they have put in. Also, I'm also wondering why you need an NDA. I mean, you have denied any wrongdoing when it comes to any of your workplace harassment, any of the issues you had in the past. You've denied any wrongdoing. I wonder why they need an NDA. That's wild. That's fascinating. It is quite fascinating. The door knocker adds that they had overheard my supervisor and a few others mention Elon Musk by name, marking the first time they had heard of the billionaire ex-owner's involvement. The Trump campaign has largely outsourced its field operation in Michigan to Musk, a move that has come under heavy criticism as previously reported by Wired. Blitz Canvassing has also reportedly had issues with fake door knocks being flagged by Campaign Sidekick, a glitchy app used by America PAC. In Nevada and Arizona, up to a quarter of the door interactions were flagged as potential fakes within the app, according to The Guardian. Sidekick was never expected to handle the auditing of America PAC's door operation. The reason the PAC is confident in its numbers is because of the auditing procedures each canvassing firm puts in place and the auditing procedures of the PAC writ large. That was from a person familiar with the America PAC operation and what they told The Guardian at the time. Now, you mean to tell me that an operation surrounding Elon Musk is glitchy? We've never seen anything like that before.
Which began about 40 minutes late, plagued by technical difficulties.
My apologies for the late start.
See, the problem is you gotta update the app. Yeah, it needs an update because once you update it, then that'll get the bugs out, and then you all good. Once you update, maybe just try blowing in it like a Nintendo cartridge. Sounds like they need to blow in their entire field operations. Field organizing normally doesn't work this way. The gold standard for door knocking apps is minivan, and transportation usually involves carpooling with other volunteers or campaign staff offering a ride, preferably with seatbelts. What do you mean preferably? We are really playing fast and loose with the legality here. What you mean preferably? Is that what y'all doing in the Midwest? Initially, the paid door knockers for the Blitz subcontractor didn't have transportation to get around Michigan since no one in the group had a valid driver's license. Let me run that back. Initially, the paid door knockers for the Blitz subcontractor didn't have transportation to get around Michigan since no one in the group had a valid driver's license. So you guys organized a group of door knockers, none of whom had a valid driver's license, and you were tracking them with a glitchy app. This sounds about right. This sounds like if you ask me what Trump's ground game was looking like, that's what I would have said. This is exactly what I would have said. On Saturday, October 19th, supervisors for the canvassers initially commandeered some Ubers for them to reach their list of addresses. But by Sunday, the door knockers were loaded into a rented U-Haul moving van with no rear seating or seatbelts, and a photo and videos viewed by Wired. We were all told our transportation would be handled and we'd be in rental cars. It turned out to be U-Haul vans, and I felt embarrassed and played, the door knocker tells Wired. Now here's an interesting thing, because apparently the door knockers were told if they didn't reach this wild 17 to 22% engagement rate, they wouldn't have their hotels paid for. But they're also saying that promises that were made about their basic working conditions weren't being honored. So it sounds like you haven't upheld your end of the bargain, which you are brushing past, but holding them to unrealistic expectations. And that is how you become a billionaire, folks. That is exactly how you become the richest man walking the planet. The video from inside the van shows a bumpy ride with a cage separating the mostly black door knockers from their driver. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Now, why would the door knockers be mostly black? Why would the door knockers be mostly black? I mean, there are plenty of white folks that are out here struggling, looking for a gig, but you chose black folks that you're going to use as door knockers. And why? I can think of two possible explanations, both of which I believe are true. One, because you knew what the conditions would be and you understood exactly who you felt more comfortable subjecting to those conditions, A, and B, because they were being sent in to talk to other black people. I believe C, all of the above. The driver also told the group of door knockers that he was in pain and had difficulty driving. Quote, "I just had surgery, bro," the U-Haul driver says in another recording obtained by Wired. "Like half of my foot is cut off." This was the driver. Quote, "I'm scared," the door knocker who spoke to Wired replies on the recording. "And all the manager is concerned about is how many MFN doors the B got," the driver responds. Wow. I mean, the inhumanity of it all. And I must say, it's directly reflected by the inhumanity that you hear out of their mouths when they talk about these people. You hear the inhumanity. If you didn't know the inner workings of his operation, and if you didn't have Wired photos and videos popping out, they told you what it was.
They're taking the jobs from our black population.
The canvassers were then dropped off roughly 40 minutes apart from each other, relying on the mobile app to log their interactions at front doors. In a contract agreement reviewed by Wired, door knockers were given specific performance guidelines along with a mandate to keep the GPS function of their personal device turned on during all working hours. Each knock at the door must be done in 15 seconds or less, and the contractors must remain on the property for at least 30 seconds. The campaign sidekick app used by America PAC has severe limitations in its functionality, including the lack of a geo-tracking feature, hence the requirement that canvassers leave GPS services on for their personal devices at all times, according to a contract reviewed by Wired, forcing them to use offline walkbooks, a function of the America PAC app that don't offer the support of GPS or real-time upload capabilities. Now, I must ask, what kind of gig involves my personal device? What kind of gig involves my personal device? Like, you are asking these people to just accept any kind of treatment. Were you trying to see at what point they would leave? That's the only thing that I can think of why you would think this was a remotely respectable or decent way to go about any business. If you have been on the channel for a while, you know exactly where I'm going with this. This sounds exactly like what Carl Baxter was subjected to down in Florida.
A black Trump supporter, a supporter who cared so much about Trump's candidacy that he wanted to volunteer to get him elected, now says that he was discriminated against in Florida by a right-wing political advocacy group that ended in them repeatedly referring to him as a slave after just 12 days of working for this organization.
Now, while this particular group of door knockers was being managed through blitz canvassing, screenshots shared with Wired show America PAC listed in the mobile app they were using to knock on doors. Quote, recommended attire includes a red polo shirt with khaki pants or jeans and closed-toed shoes. The attire section of the contract reads, clothing with graffiti, writing, or ripped jeans/shorts is not allowed. And you got some nerve telling me what I can and cannot wear to your gig that is relying on my personal device where I need transportation. You have nobody with any sort of driver's license and your app doesn't work. If I show up in a Wizards jersey, which would be sad, but if I showed up in a Wizards jersey, you should just say, I'm happy to see you. That's all I should hear. Now, I actually received an email from one of our members on the channel reading, good afternoon, Reese. First, I love your show. Unfortunately, what I have to share is not positive. My niece goes to Troy University in Alabama and had been loving life until the election. Today, she received this threat. She and her friends are very concerned and we're working on reporting this to authorities in Troy, but I was curious and concerned with other people attending non-black institutions. Is there an uptick of racially charged threats and harassment aimed at African Americans? Anyhow, if you could bring some attention to this, it will be greatly appreciated. Now let's take a look at this message. Greetings, you have been selected to pick cotton at the nearest plantation. Our executive slaves will come get you in a brown van. Be prepared to be searched down once you've entered the plantation. Also, there are a litany of spelling and grammatical errors in this message, which are to be expected. If we're being honest, it is a harken back to a time of lower education, and dare I say, we appear to be going back. What are executive slaves? That is another. Are the executive slaves the ones that have been appearing all over cable news and trying to convince us that this was in fact good for us and the way to go? Would those be the executive slaves? Because a few actually do come to mind. And why Plantation Group W? How are the groupings done? I have questions. Also, I don't know if you were going to institute something like this, if cotton picking would really be the thing to be doing in 2024, but I can imagine maybe this wasn't something that you've looked that deeply into, since whoever authored this hasn't seen fit to look at anything outside of Fox News. So I did check into that, and this appears to be an actual thing that is going around the country. As you can see here, racist text messages referencing slavery raise alarms in multiple states and prompt investigations. Congratulations to today's nominee, Maga. Let's dig in. Authorities across the United States are investigating after several people, including children, yes, children, and college students, reported receiving racist text messages from unrecognized phone numbers in recent days. Now, if you really wanted to be as inhumane and problematic as possible, then yes, children would probably be your target. If this was something that you were choosing to try and be effective, then that would be the last thing that you would want to do, because it would show the hypocrisy and any of the nonsense we've been hearing about trying to put the country back together and trying to erase the hate. You remember all that stuff about Trump and how it's all about love? Yeah, This going to children. Yeah. You got this going to children. The texts have been reported in states including Maryland, New Jersey, Alabama, Michigan, Georgia, Nevada, New York, and South Carolina. CNN has reached out to state officials for additional information on the text messages. Quote, the FBI is aware of the offensive and racist messages sent to individuals around the country and is in contact with the Justice Department and other federal authorities on the matter. That was from the FBI on Thursday. Talia Jones, a black woman who lives in Piscataway, New Jersey, said she was shocked to receive a racist text on Wednesday informing her she had been selected to pick cotton at the nearest plantation. The text also refers to executive slave catchers, according to the screenshot Jones shared with CNN. My initial reaction was probably like disbelief. I thought this was like a joke, said Jones, who forwarded a text to her loved ones. It really just shows we didn't come as far as everybody thought we did as a nation from back in the day when slavery was still a thing. Now, those of us with operable brains saw it was apparent that we hadn't come as far as we thought we had as a nation even before the election. But apparently, some of these executive catchers that were floating around tried to tell us that racism was a thing of the past.
It's the evolution of the Southern heart that we see on display. And we Southerners get so little credit for the progress we've made. The whole notion of judging a person on the content of their character, not the color of their skin, has happened. It's not going to happen. It's not around the corner. It's in the rearview mirror.
They tried to tell us that it was a figment of our imagination, and yet here we go. Here we go. Didn't even take a week. It didn't even take a week. Alabama mother Arletta McCall told CNN a racist text message was also sent to her daughter Wednesday morning that left her feeling unsafe. Her daughter, Elisa, an honors freshman at the University of Alabama, was in tears and wanted to go home after receiving a message that she said she had been selected to pick cotton at the nearest plantation and to be prepared to be searched down. It's eerie that it's the day after the election. It's eerie that it came to my daughter's personal phone. It's eerie that it's only going to black students. Her group of friends have mapped out their paths to class so that they can walk together and keep each other safe. And I would also echo that sentiment that now is the time to certainly form groups and be accountable for our own safety. The University of Alabama acknowledged in a statement to CNN that individuals across the country have received these disgusting messages and urged anyone with information to report it to authorities. This has been reported to authorities, and we're asking anyone who may have information regarding these messages to report it to the appropriate authorities, they added. Now, while that is the response that I would like to see from the University of Alabama, it was hardly predictable given the lead up to this particular election. And I'm wondering, why are all of these jurisdictions caught flat-footed when something like this emerges the day after the election, when this is the exact same rhetoric that led us into the election? And another thing that I want to say, why is it? Because they love to disavow direct connection with people responsible for these kinds of things, you know, the kind of domestic terrorism that they swear isn't actually a factor in American life, the kind of stuff that they just like to ignore while they invent boogeymen abroad and groups of brown people. How is it that the thing that you claim doesn't exist just seems to always be permeating around? Huh? It's never too far away. I said this exact same thing in the piece about Laura Trump when the nachos showed up to the boat party. They never too far away, are they? They are never too far away. It is curious, and at this point, I'm directing this to the executive catchers and also their mouthpieces all across social media and the digital space, including here on YouTube, all my black conservatives. Never too far away, is it? No, this stuff is never It's never too far away, is it? No. Yeah, but you were trying to convince me to vote Trump based on the economy, right? And this wasn't real. That is indeed what you said. Now, school board officials in Montgomery County, Maryland, yes, Montgomery County, Maryland, say local law enforcement and the FBI are aware of people, including their students, receiving the texts, and that law enforcement in some areas have announced they're considering the messages low-level threats, according to a statement from Montgomery County Public Schools. Quote, "We recognize that the emotional and psychological impact on our students, staff, and particularly our communities of color is profound. We stand in solidarity with those who feel targeted and hurt by these actions," the school board statement read. I was going to say, you're not going to have me receive a message like that the same week that Donald Trump is reelected to the White House and tell me it's a low-level threat. You're not going to do that. I do appreciate that they acknowledge the psychological impact, especially at a time like this, but nah. Virginia news stations WVEC TV said one of its photographers, Sam Burwell, also received a text message from an unfamiliar phone number addressing him by name. And like the text Jones and McCall's daughter received, the text told him he had been selected to pick cotton at the nearest plantation. Really, you know, the more it gets repeated, it becomes less inventive. You know, it becomes really passé and lazy when you think about it. Burwell said in an article posted by WVEC that he's concerned about receiving a text message a day after the election. "I feel like it's a spam message, and I do feel disappointed about the message they're sending a day after the election." And just when you thought all these messages were over, too. Just when you thought all these messages were over. Well, at least on the bright side, I don't have to be receiving spam to my email and my phone about the election. Oh, now we're getting the cotton messages. Thanks. Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrill said Thursday that the racist and vile spam text messages have also spread to her state. She wrote in a statement via X, "I've directed the Louisiana Bureau of Investigation to fully investigate the origins of these disgusting texts that only intend to divide us," Murrill said, urging anyone impacted to report the messages to her office. Officials in Virginia and Washington, D.C. told CNN Thursday they are also looking into the racist text messages. The Attorney General's office is aware of racist text messages being sent to district residents and condemns them unequivocally. That came from the communications director. Anyone receiving these messages should contact our civil rights section by calling 202-727-3400 or emailing oagcivilrights@dc.gov. And if you believe your safety is at risk, please contact local law enforcement, she said in a statement to CNN. And I would echo that sentiment. We absolutely want to try and get to the bottom of this, at least in the next 2 months, while there is a civil rights division of the Department of Justice. The Virginia Attorney General's office is also aware of these text messages and unequivocally condemns them, Press Secretary Chloe Smith said, noting that anyone who believes themselves to be under threat shouldn't hesitate to contact local law enforcement as well as their local FBI field office. New York Attorney General Letitia James condemned the text messages as disgusting and unacceptable in a statement on X. These texts appear to be targeting Black and brown individuals, including students, and may include personal information about the recipient, such as their name or location. I unequivocally condemn any attempt to intimidate or threaten New Yorkers and their families. And if you're wondering just how pervasive this kind of mindset is, she posted that on X. So you can only imagine what the comments look like underneath that post on X. So tell me again how isolated this particular thing happens to be. Nevada's Attorney General's office investigators are working with law enforcement to investigate the source of what appears to be robo-text messages, the office said in a statement on X. You would try and blame AI for y'all's hate. I mean, really. You don't even understand how AI works. AI would be more creative than to go to cotton. Yeah, AI would be more creative to go to cotton. The only person that will go to cotton with a message like this is somebody that has not read or understood the way that the world works in a good 20 years. Definitely a good 20 years. Now, something was interesting to me. Shout out to our assistant here on the channel, Miss Rock, because she happened to send me a link about this particular story on Ground News. And one thing I found fascinating, of all of the outlets that are reporting on this particular story, a little curious that the right-wing sources are a little slow. Yeah, the right-wing sources are a little slow in reporting this particular story. Only 6 right-wing sources have reported on this particular story. And why is that? Why is that? If anybody should be well acquainted with this kind of behavior, it should be y'all. Have you just become desensitized to it? Is that what it all? I mean, people trying to convince black people they're going back to slavery. I mean, it's just another Thursday. That's not even news to us. One of them that did happen to report on it was the Gateway Pundit, and I love the way that this was framed over at the Gateway Pundit. Noted right-wing provocateur quoting a Trump supporter. They put it in quotes right there from a Trump supporter. So you're disavowing the origins of this because this is so out of lockstep with the rhetoric from the campaign and even the man himself. I'm old enough to remember, I don't know, like a week ago when they had the Halloween parade with Kamala Harris in chains. Yeah, I remember that.
Some participants in a Halloween parade in Westmoreland County are coming under fire for their float.
Jessica Guay is live in the newsroom with more on that story. Jess?
Josh and Erica, photos of the float in last night's parade in Mount Pleasant show a utility vehicle decorated with American flags and Trump campaign signs. People dressed as Secret Service agents with what appears to be a rifle mounted on top, and a person dressed as Vice President Kamala Harris chained up and walking behind the cart. The photos have gone viral on social media, and the response is overwhelmingly negative, with many calling the float racist and offensive. The parade is put on by the Mount Pleasant Volunteer Fire Department. We've reached out to them with questions and have not yet heard back.
And this the same party that had the frat boys make monkey noises at a black woman who was protesting at the University of Mississippi, then had video from that protest posted by the governor. Quick aside, one of the things that I did say in that particular piece is that he was moving like he knew there would be no recourse for him. And given the voter turnout in Mississippi, he was in fact correct. Let's fix it. Huh? Oh, the billboard? Technically that was sexism. Now, whether or not they would have done that to a white woman remains to be seen, but that was in fact sexism. That's a whole nother a tranche of depravity. So all these supremacist groups celebrating must just be a coincidence, huh? That is coincidence. It don't make you all feel weird to be voting in lockstep with avowed, aggressive, and self-proclaimed white supremacists? It's not a deal breaker. That's not problematic for none of y'all, huh? Yeah, that's what I mean. It's never too far away. It's never too far away, but yet you always want to disavow any direct connection. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Didn't Laura Trump tell me that one of the things they always say about the Republican Party is that it's racist? It doesn't necessarily apply directly to Trump. But a week after the election, this is where we at. Now, I've already on this platform broken down how the Latino vote emerged in 2024. Latino men at 44% to 54%. He won the Latino vote. I've also discussed pick-me's in our own community.
At the end of the day, I don't think that she has the personality. I don't think that she has what it takes to go up against Putin.
As well as amongst white women.
Trump was not well served by those around him last night. It wasn't a Nazi rally, all that's nonsense. But I'm telling you, even for me, and I voted for Donald Trump last week, it was too brotastic.
So one notable group has been missing from the Pick Me breakdown. That is right. The Latinos for Trump come on down to the Summer Jam screen. Now, we have seen the fallout from the election already. In some cases, dividing whole families.
Well, it's happening. The family wants to know what I'm doing for the holidays. I'm gonna be here with my dogs and my daughter, who is of childbearing age and now has to get an IUD at 17 years old. And I'm gonna be here with my son, who is a political target. And that should really tell you all you need to know about why I'm not gonna be hanging out with y'all for the holidays. So
it was only a matter of time before we got this content, this time coming to us from MSNBC. Now, one thing I do want to highlight, this particular segment was titled Economic Insecurity Drives Latino Vote. Now, I find that to be curious because that's one of the things that was continually pounded, was that the economy was the thing that was driving folks' voting preferences. However, you find me a more economically insecure group than Black Americans. Go ahead, I'll wait. Go ahead. I mean, in the face of massive wealth inequality, with a power structure seeking specifically to do away with any sort of DEI or diversity programs that can work to eradicate that wealth inequality, we get to hear from other people talk about how they're driven by economic insecurity.
A sharp swing among Latino voters toward Mr. Trump was critical to the now president-elect's win. And the number one issue driving that shift, the economy, according to exit polls. NBC's David Noriega spoke with a family in Battleground, Nevada about why Latino voters shifted so significantly toward Mr. Trump and why his victory is giving them hope for a better future.
No, not right now. Mario and Mireya Alvarez found the American dream in Las Vegas.
Would you like some coffee?
They came to the U.S. from Mexico and Guatemala in the 80s.
Okay, first thing to keep in mind, these are immigrants. Go on.
With his job in a supermarket and her job in a casino, they bought a house and raised 3 children. Now they wonder if their kids and grandkids will inherit that dream. Is it still possible to do that for the younger generation?
That's my main concern right now. What's going to happen to our new generation? Nowadays, they're not even able to move out of their houses anymore because everything is so expensive.
Life wasn't expensive as it is right now.
We first met Mario back in February when he was seriously considering a vote for Donald Trump. He was undecided with previous votes for George W. Bush, Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Biden. At the last minute, he broke for Kamala Harris. But today, he's not upset about the result.
Okay, let me stop you right there. How can somebody who voted for Kamala Harris, in addition to having voted for Hillary Clinton and Obama before that, not be upset with the results? I don't, because they were so similar. Is that what it? Because they were just talking about the same stuff. No.
I'm kind of like more happy than upset. Why? Because Donald Trump is going to help the country with the economy.
So if you followed, he voted for Kamala, but he's more happy than upset. And as hard as this might be for you to believe, he makes the most sense of everybody sitting on that couch. You'll see.
The whole household is happy. Mireya and their 29-year-old son, Mario Jr., did vote for Trump.
Initially, I will say I did not agree with him. And then I started seeing that he was not afraid to speak his mind. And I noticed that he was not scared to say what he felt, regardless of what people would say. And I think I respect that about him.
So you liked his kind of brashness, his personality?
Yeah, I would say yes.
Who was he talking about? Who was he talking about in his brashness? Who was the target of his brashness?
Actually, I'm not as brash as you might think.
There are levels of pick me, and a guy saying, I like that he says what's on his mind, even as the target of what's on his mind is a high level. That is whoo. I wonder what was your favorite of his selections of saying what's on his mind. Was it the bad genes in the country, or maybe poison in the blood? Which one? Maybe the one about they're not sending their best. Maybe it was that one. No. It was eating the cats and dogs. It was definitely eating the cats and dogs.
They're not alone. Across the country, Donald Trump made huge inroads with Latino voters. According to NBC exit polls, 55% of Latino men nationwide voted for Trump, a 19-point jump from 2020. Among Latina women like Mireya, an 8-point gain. And while Vice President Harris won a slight majority of the Latino vote overall, Trump increased his support 14 points from the last election. The top issue among Latino voters, like it is for the Alvarez family, the economy, with immigration a distant fourth. Mario and Mireya both crossed the border illegally as teenagers.
One more time. Can you run that by me one more time? Huh? Just one more time.
Mario and Mireya both crossed the border illegally as teenagers.
So they both crossed the border illegally as teenagers, yet she has found her way to voting for the guy speaking in front of the crowd with the mass deportation signs. Ooh, boy. This is gonna be awkward.
But became citizens under President Ronald Reagan's amnesty. They see themselves as different from migrants crossing the border today.
There we have it. Oh, we're different. Not us. Oh, please enlighten me.
In what way do you think they're different?
The people that are coming here are the criminals. The ones that did something bad in their country, they're running away from their law.
Despite having close family members who are undocumented,
migrant invasion.
They don't believe they'll end up in Trump's crosshairs. When you hear Trump promise mass deportations, do you worry about them?
Yes and no. Because the ones that I know, they're doing good. They're not breaking any law.
Where do I start with this one? Let's start with the first most obvious thing, that coming into the country undocumented and illegally is breaking the law. Let's start with that one. So in the ways in which you feel like you're different, you came in as a criminal by virtue of how you came in. Let's start with that. But secondly, she's saying she doesn't have a problem with the deportation because they're criminals who are coming in, despite the fact that she and her husband came in and they don't consider themselves criminals, and says she's not worried about her undocumented family because they're not criminals. So even though you personally aren't a criminal, and the people that you know personally aren't criminals, you choose to believe him telling you about the criminals flooding into the border over your own experience and those of the people that you know. How do you undo that level of delusion? Like, how do you do that? Like, I need to understand how long is her deprogramming going to take? And then let's get to that part where apparently all of the authorities who will be choosing who's deported and who's not deported will have some kind of Minority Report-esque device that will tell them who is and who isn't a criminal, and who exactly it is will cause a problem in the future. So apparently I missed the part where they magically discern and delineate between who is and who isn't a criminal, because he called everybody criminals. So that not only would include the people that you know and the people that you love in your family, that would include you too. So I'm trying to figure out exactly how it is you have convinced yourself that you're different. At no point has he ever made any sort of effort or even intimated that there are any differences among you.
I believe he's going to start deporting all the bad people.
Oh, it's the bad people. You mean the monster under the bed? Is that what he gonna get? He gonna get the monster under the bed, and then he gonna get the monster in the closet, and then he gonna get the people that hold up traffic during rush hour to try and parallel park in a busy street. Those three getting out of here. They out of here.
Trump won over the Alvarez family and many like them. Whether the economy improves and who exactly he chooses to deport may determine if he keeps them.
My family is Latino, and a lot of them are immigrants. But at the end of the day, we're American.
Okay, so here's a question. By virtue of what she has said, some of your family is undocumented. They came undocumented, but yet you assert that we are Americans. So who does that apply to and who does it not? Is it just if you own a flag? Like, is that, because that would explain some of the holes in logic that I've seen over the course of the last 7 days. If I have a red hat and I hold up a flag, I'm safe. Like, you think the flag is base?
You have this interesting view that, and it should be noted that they're members of the Alvarez family who are here illegally. And so they would be first and foremost on the list. Being here illegally is a crime. So if Donald Trump is going after the criminals, he therefore is coming after you for having committed a crime. What is it about that connection that it's not me, it's those others? That other thing has now seemed to be a very salient conversation within the Hispanic community.
And one thing I want to highlight here too, not only is it not me, it's those others, it is that even with my proximity to those others, I still want them to be deported. Yeah, I still want them to be deported. It's no different than as a man being like, well, they not trying to take my rights and my bodily autonomy. So I have women around me. I'm married to one. I have a daughter and a mother I'm very close to, but it ain't me.
I think what we learned is that a lot of Latinos resonated with that us versus them language and game that Donald Trump played, right? I think the reality is, and I think that's what the polls were showing, right? That there was a significant amount of Latinos that simply weren't resonating with that anti-immigrant message. No, they didn't really see themselves as part of that them language. They weren't insulted by that language. You can explain that by many different ways. One of them is simply the fact that a lot of Latinos are simply more Americanized now. They're more assimilated. The majority of us are now US born. The majority of us speak English. We're under 50. And so that's one way to sort of understand that. Then I think there's the real elements of the very real disillusionment. I mean, I've even been in places like Nevada and Arizona. I've talked to dreamers. I've talked to undocumented immigrants that have been in this country for over 20 years. And there is a sense of resentment that the Democratic Party has yet to fulfill their promise, to really promise and give them that comprehensive immigration reform. And so in those conversations, you start to feel some resentment using the same language that Trumpism uses, which is they are cutting the line, they are coming in, they're stealing something from me. I think that also resonated. But I think now we're standing in the reality of all of these different mixed status families. are now going to actually understand whether or not they feel welcomed in Donald Trump's America right now. Because when those mass deportations happen, and they will try and do that, it won't be a matter of who feels American enough or not. It'll be up to Trump to determine who looks American enough or not. Because what we learned from Operation Wetback is not only that they deported Mexicans, but that they also targeted people that were Mexican looking. And so this is now where, as a community, we're going to test ourselves and really, really understand how united we are. And unfortunately, sometimes it takes these difficult moments to get to that place.
Oh, they're gonna have some difficult moments. They definitely are gonna have some difficult moments. One thing that I took from that, talking about how a lot of Latinos have become more Americanized and they speak English and they're under 50 and whatnot. What part of the process of becoming Americanized embraces xenophobia? Because I have never been fully immersed in any other culture. I've been here my entire life and I find it to be abhorrent. So I don't understand where in the process all of a sudden that becomes the thing, unless you are in some sort of competition in your own head to secure a pat on the back from the white majority. Then that becomes the thing.
If they let in hundreds or thousands of people who already have criminal records.
Oh, CNN went in too?
If deporting them creates a mass deportation, I'm all for it.
What do you have on your head? What do you have on your head, man? Huh? What do you have on? Is that it? Never mind, just go ahead.
But what if rounded up in all of that are people who work on a farm? They're doing the jobs that Americans don't want to do. Does that worry you?
That wouldn't be fair. Of course, they need to make sure that they don't throw away, they don't kick out, they don't deport people that are family oriented.
Oh, they're gonna find out. They're gonna find out. That was horrible. That was horrible. I'll be completely honest with you. Now, if you thought it was gonna get better after the election, I got some news for you. It got worse. Today's nominee, something that a ton of you guys sent me and I very much appreciated, Donald Trump. I got a feeling he gonna have a cabinet full of these things by 2028. Hell, he gonna have a cabinet full by 2026. Run the clip.
While academics have been obsessed with indoctrinating America's youth, the time has come to reclaim our once great educational institutions from the radical left, and we will do that.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to stop us right there. What constitutes indoctrinating America's youth? What is indoctrinating America's youth mean? Does that mean depictions and accounts of American history that are too accurate for you? Is that what indoctrination means? Because I don't see you challenging the facts that are being presented, just the feelings that comes from the facts that are being presented. So your own behavior is too problematic for you? Is that what indoctrination means? No. Go on.
Our secret weapon will be the college accreditation system. It's called accreditation for a reason. The accreditors are supposed to ensure that schools are not ripping off students and taxpayers, but they have failed totally.
Did somebody just say schools and rip off? Is that what I just heard? I just thought I heard schools and rip off in the same sentence.
So you're a former Trump University student. Do you believe that it was a fraud, as the Attorney General has said?
Absolutely.
Okay. Go ahead.
When I return to the White House, I will fire the radical left accreditors that have allowed our colleges to become dominated by Marxist maniacs and lunatics.
That's interesting. It's been a while since I was in school, but I don't recall any Marxist maniacs and lunatics in my classes or being taught in my classes. What schools is he talking about Trump University right now?
We will then accept applications for new accreditors who will impose real standards on colleges once again and once and for all. These standards will include defending the American tradition and Western civilization, protecting free speech, eliminating wasteful administrative positions that drive up costs incredibly.
Okay, I gotta stop you right there. How do you fold protecting free speech in a denouncement of the accreditors and replacing them with new people that will defend Western civilization? How do you fold free speech into your demand that they protect Western civilization, whatever that means? I would love to know. Maybe that was a weave. Maybe the weave just went and got free speech and brought it into a neighborhood it did not belong in. Oh, one other thing. I forgot about defending the American tradition. So what exactly does defending the American tradition mean? Does defending the American tradition mean defending America? Is that what defending the American tradition mean? Because if you're demanding that they defend America, then you're taking a stance that America has never been wrong or done anything wrong, which would be totally nonsensical to a country that actively has amendments to its constitution. And also the fact that, how about you just did a whole presidential campaign talking about how we were a garbage can? So, did America just go undefeated until 2020 and then we lost our way? Is that your take?
Removing all Marxist diversity, equity, and inclusion bureaucrats.
There we go. I was trying to figure out where he was going with the whole Marxist thing. Diversity, equity, and inclusion bureaucrats. Yes, they would have to be bureaucrats because you couldn't imagine that they would be doing anything. So they would have to be bureaucrats.
Offering options for accelerated and low-cost degrees, providing meaningful job placement and career services, and implementing college entrance and exit exams to prove that students are actually learning and getting their money's worth. Furthermore, I will direct the Department of Justice to pursue federal civil rights cases against schools that continue to engage in racial discrimination.
Man, I was waiting. Hey, this is good, because people said that, you never know, Trump might get in office and he might do some things. He might actually do some good. And then we activating the Civil Rights Division to get justice. Yeah, I'm with this.
And schools that persist in explicit unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity will not only have their endowments taxed, but through budget reconciliation, I will advance a measure to have them fined up to the entire amount of their endowment.
You want to run that by me one more time?
Explicit unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity will not only have their endowments taxed, but through budget reconciliation, I will advance a measure to have them fined up to the entire amount of their endowment.
Okay, so let's stop us right there. So you want to launch civil rights cases to pursue discrimination under the guise of equity. So you are talking about anti-white discrimination here. Let's get that clear. Let's get a quick definition of equity real quick. So equity, we got a noun. This comes from the Oxford Dictionary. The quality of being fair and impartial. Quote, equity of treatment. You know what? Let's get another one. Let's go to Merriam-Webster. Merriam-Webster says equity is fairness or justice in the way people are treated. Often, specifically, freedom from disparities in the way people of different races, genders, etc. are treated. So you want to use the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, which is badly needed, by the way. You want to use their time and energy and our money to pursue cases against people that are trying to correct society's wrongs and provide some level of justice across strata. That is how you want to spend their time and their money. Just so I'm clear.
Through budget reconciliation, I will advance a measure to have them fined up to the entire amount of their endowment. A portion of the seized funds will then be used as restitution for victims of these illegal and unjust policies that hurt our country so badly.
How so? I didn't know how so. I'm trying to figure out how so. I could understand how it hurt your friends. I could understand that because let's get one thing clear. All of this railing against DEI and saying it should be the best person available never quite comes for cronyism or nepotism, does it? Doesn't. Never quite does. No, that is the elephant-sized hole in any case they attempt to make about how it should be a true meritocracy. That's number one. Number two, clearly, when people say that diversity is our strength, when you have more candidates, when you open up a wide net, then you allow for some of those people that might not have otherwise have gotten an opportunity to all of a sudden get an opportunity, but you have to open that net in order to reach those people. However, if the current existing net reaches the only people who you have an interest in succeeding, then the ultimate strength of the product is less important than ensuring that you and yours get through. So is that what you mean when you say you're hurting our country? Is that what you mean? Because our country, right, clearly isn't about the product. It's about this group. It's about like you and yours, right? So you and yours is who constitutes our country, because it's certainly not constituting me.
Colleges have gotten hundreds of billions of dollars from hardworking taxpayers, and now we are going to get this anti-American insanity out of our institutions once and for all.
Anti-American insanity. Now, that is the one thing that I will agree with here. I will say, if you look at America historically, any attempts to diversify or provide equity would run absolutely counter to our history. You are 1,000% right there.
We are going to have real education in America.
Well, some of us will. Some of us will. Now, the fact that any level of oversight diminishes your ability to manipulate job placement and college placement wouldn't happen to come into play here, would it? And by the way, since this is not at all something that's needed, this whole idea of equity and justice, let's see what your cabinet looking like right now. See what your cabinet looking like right now. Which actually is quite predictable, given that you are somebody who once reportedly asked if America was ready to accept an N as the winner of a business competition.
Trump seemed to have an issue with this idea all along. You could see him reacting and shaking his head, wobbling his head, grimacing, wincing, before he said, yeah, but would America buy then he said the N word, winning.
So a person like that choosing a cabinet, presumably it would look the way that yours looks, and look the way that your companies look, for that matter. Oh wait, no, actually, I take that back. They actually looked a little bit better because of some of the DEI efforts, but I can imagine what they're gonna look like moving forward. Let's see, where are we exactly here? Yeah, that looks about right. That looks about where we are right now in the pyramid, and moving on up. I would actually like to provide a little bit of caution while you're looking to provide some of the restitution, as you call it, to the people that have been affected. According to Vivek Ramaswamy, that would really just do them more harm than good.
I'm against race-based reparations because I think it will create more division,
What
not
about
less.
race-based discrimination that occurred in this country for?
Yeah, so let me just clarify one aspect. I think there was a time and place for it in the Reconstruction era. But today, when we actually bring back racial reparations, it actually causes greater discrimination, not more. I think we're seeing a rise in anti-Black and I think other forms of racism in the country. But part of the reason I think we're seeing it is there's no better way to foster racial animus than to take something away from someone based on their skin color.
So I'm trying to figure out if reparations is something that would be damaging and problematic to the Black community, while all of a sudden it's needed for Tyler and Jezebel. Like I'm trying to figure out exactly why it's due for them, but not for us. Also of note here, the survivors of the Tulsa race massacre were denied reparations. The living survivors were denied reparations. But you want to launch a civil rights case against folks that are looking to provide equity in our colleges and provide restitution to those that were affected. And this is the same guy who just a month ago was talking about a two-tier justice system. And you know what? He was right about that. It absolutely is a two-tiered justice system. 100-year-old survivors of a race massacre cannot get any restitution, but you're looking to launch civil rights cases against schools that are trying to provide equity. That is where we're at. And by the way, there are those among us, and I mean us, that tried to tell me that he was looking out for us, that he identified with us, right? Isn't that what y'all tried to tell me, Black conservatives? Yeah. You finding out now, ain't you? Yeah? How's that looking?
MAGA family, I was on TikTok Live and a fellow Trump supporter said that all he needed was my vote. I'll never be part of the MAGA family, and that I'm Black, I'll never be accepted, but he just got my vote. Nah, that's crazy. Like, I love MAGA Nation, I love the MAGA family, and that breaks my heart that someone would speak to me like that right after the election, that all I was a vote? Nah, I love all you guys, and I know most of you MAGA family members are not racist, and I love you guys, and I'll keep repping MAGA Nation, Trump 2024, but that really broke my heart that some guy would say that. Extremely heartbroken.
Now, I actually spoke about the initial dissolution of some DEI programs in Florida and Alabama, and how that was met with a travel advisory and admonishment from the NAACP, which I very much appreciated, as well as calls for a boycott for some of their sports teams. I very much appreciated the collective thinking there. It was long overdue, and I think we need to regroup in that regard right now. As far as reparations is concerned, for those of you that need a refresher, I generally love to use an MLK clip for some of the injustice, financial injustice that we have been on the wrong end of. But just for the sake of a refresh, how about I go to Greg Marcel Dixon, who's a candidate for South Carolina's 6th Congressional District. He laid it down.
Reparation is not based on race. It's based on status. A black person who comes here from Nigeria or Jamaica or Brazil, they're not owed a penny from America. They chose to come here. We are talking about the people who are freedmen, the descendants of people emancipated by this country. We still know those people because you are one of those people. I am one of those people. A lot of those people here in the audience, I just told you I could break down my genealogy. My dear Nana was 101 when she died. My great-grandfather just died 3 weeks ago. He was 100. He remembers fighting alongside white veterans in World War II. He remembers coming back and seeing his white veterans get homes and lands and pensions and the door being slammed in his face. And we are going to say that America that says liberty and justice for all, that's okay, get over it, keep it moving, while we have to hear never forget for everyone else's tragedy. And as far as from where reparations will come, I need people to stop thinking is going to come from their tax dollars. Look at all the trillions that America spends right now. We talk about inflation, the invisible tax. We have something called the PPP loans. Do we remember the PPP loans? America spent $6 trillion on PPP loans. You know what they just did? They canceled all of it. And we didn't even know. America gave the corporations, the banks alone, $29 trillion. You know what they did with that? They canceled all of it. So let's stop acting as if America is as hamstrung by debt as they want to pretend. Because when America wants to pay for something, they find a way to do it. And truth be told, the corporations, again, aren't hurting. The defense manufacturers aren't hurting. It's only Americans who are hurting. And that is a choice. We all know it's a choice. That's why we're running for office, because we know this country can do better. So I refuse to accept that this country can't do right by a people they've wronged for centuries, and I refuse to accept that any justice-minded person thinks that's the right thing to do.
Yes, there are people that have quite literally died for this while we are still waiting, but by all means use our time, energy, and taxpayer dollars to pursue justice for Sawyer and Kaylin. That is where we're at and what we can expect over the course of the next 4 years. And if what I've been getting from Maga is any indication, they're all for it. Today's nominee, something called Avi Rockland. Run the clip.
Typically dry state Senate hearing on public safety set on fire by a racist tirade.
If we want to address gun violence, we would be focusing on the people who bring guns into communities and shoot people, like where I live in Detroit and where you represent, Stephanie Chang, which are overwhelmingly 13 to 34-year-old sub-Saharan African.
Whoa. You starting out hot. Take me to the beginning of the testimony.
Targets. Let's be very clear. This is legislation that targets white people. It is racial because the people who carry in the Capitol are primarily white. People who have CPLs are primarily white.
Legislation that targets white people? Where have I seen that before? Huh. What a coincidence. This seems to be a bit of a trend, claiming that legislation, which by and large we are not in charge of, mind you, legislation that targets white people. Yeah, because that's a thing.
And this is retaliation for the only demographic that overwhelmingly voted to support Donald Trump.
Now let me get this straight. In 2024, they don't have no better audio equipment than this? Huh? What's going on, Michigan? I'm starting to understand why some of the messages got missed throughout the state. I'm starting to understand why is so many what happens, I'm sorry's coming from Michigan when I see how their communication equipment is operating right now.
And this is retaliation for the only demographic that overwhelmingly voted to support Donald Trump. And that is why it is being taken out on us, because you don't like us, and that's how it is. If we want to address gun violence, we would be focusing on the people who bring guns into communities and shoot people, like where I live in Detroit and where you represent, Stephanie Chang, which are overwhelmingly 13 to 34-year-old sub-Saharan African. Those are the people who...
Move on.
I am testifying.
Thank you for your testimony. Yep, and
excuse me, did he say that he lived in Detroit with the sub-Saharan Africans? He said he lived in Detroit, right? Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I don't really know what y'all need me for. That's going to take care of itself.
The committee chair, Senator Stephanie Chang of Detroit, shutting down pro-gun activist Avi Racklin.
I am testifying.
thank you for your testimony. Yep, and I am the chair, and I have gaveled you down.
Leaders in both parties deeply shaken.
The term that you used is inappropriate, and it will not get you anywhere in this legislature.
Racklin was speaking before the Michigan Senate Civil Rights, Judiciary, and Public Safety Committee Thursday.
And by the way, you gotta love N's popping up in front of the Civil Rights Committee. Well done.
Stating his opposition to legislation that would ban most people from carrying firearms in the state capitol, along with the House and Senate office buildings, except for those in law enforcement and state lawmakers with CPL.
So let me get this straight. You feel like this is legislation that is anti-white because they want to keep the Capitol safe? Is the Capitol integrated? You know, like, these are questions I actually have to ask at this point in time. Is the Capitol integrated? Because as long as the Capitol is integrated and black people are free to go to the Capitol, that means they cannot take guns either. So really, it's not so much anti-white, it's anti-stupidity for anybody that would try and bring a gun to the Capitol. And man, that hit dog hollered, did it? Let's also address the fact that this is a same state where a militia developed a plot to try and kidnap current Governor Gretchen Whitmer. So in light of a kidnapping plot in recent memory for the person who's currently in office trying to keep the Capitol more secure, you make it anti-white. Wow. Well, here's a question. What's not anti-white then? Excuse me. Yeah, no, this sign says no shoes, no shirt, no service. That's anti-white. No, that is anti-white.
So the reason why I use that word is because I wanted to get my message across to Michiganders that the problem that has been categorized as gun violence is being perpetrated by individuals that represent a certain demographic.
Racklin did not back down when asked why he would use such an offensive word to begin with.
I feel like that by narrowing it down to using the N-word and that racial slur, it segregates them from the black people who don't do anything wrong.
Do you use that term for white people? Do you use that term for white people? Because if you don't, and ends is just reserved for a certain segment of the black population, it's still just as racist. And quite frankly, the fact that you would even try and justify it, that's a low level. Stand on your racism, man. I mean, really, stand on your racism. This is just sorry. First of all, we don't respect you, but they not gonna respect you neither when they see how sorry this excuse is. He failed racism 101.
What do you say to people who say you're a racist? What do you say to people who say that?
My response would be is that if you think that I'm racist, what about Joe Biden in 1993 when he was talking about the Crime Control Act in Congress and the Senate, and he said that there are predators on our street, directly describing black people?
Okay, what part of what anybody else did at any other point in time makes you less racist? I'm just trying to figure out what part of what anybody has done at any other point in time makes you less racist. That makes about as much sense as trying to challenge a candidate's blackness while you're sitting in your aggressive, anti-black, very white, pro-rich stance. I mean, like that makes as much sense as that.
we were all horrified.
Senator Chang told Fox 2 the racist outburst was part of a bigger problem and says she's never heard the N-word used in her 10 years in the legislature.
I don't believe that. No, I don't believe that for a second. We have seen far too much from Michigan. No, I don't. No. I don't believe. I'm sorry, Stephanie Chang. No, I'm not gonna believe that. And by the way, you know what? I said Michigan. It's not even a Michigan thing. I just don't believe that there is any bastion in American life where you can confidently say that you've never heard that. It's that bad. I just heard ends at Pizza Hut this afternoon. I just heard ends at the DMV on Friday.
He was basically insinuating that gun violence is because of black folks, and obviously that is a really problematic racist statement. In addition to the use of the N-word, this individual lives in the same city that I do, and has this racist belief, and it's truly disturbing. It's problematic, and I hope this can be a lesson to folks who are watching that we have a lot of work to do to combat racism still in America. So folks who maybe believe that we're in a post-racial society, clearly we're not.
Now, to Stephanie's point, that is something that we see very often. Conversations about black on black crime and black gun violence, completely ignoring all of the other factors that come into play, namely poverty and opportunity, whereas in any other situation that has ever existed on earth where there is poverty, there is crime. But we're going to ignore that, and we're going to intimate that the crime is associated specifically with the blackness. That is one of the ways in which they try and brainwash all of America. And I can tell you, as somebody that grew up in 80s and early 90s media, that's something that infected me as well. I would also like to add, and this is a feature of the Fox News, the new Fox News generation. I would also like to add him talking about black crime, right? Black gun crime. That's something they love talking. What about Chicago? What about how come Black Lives Matter is never around when black people kill each other? And one of the things I've asserted is how offensive that is, that they pretend to care about black life just as a talking point, just as a way to either deflect from racial violence, police violence, or overall gun violence when we're having the gun debates. In order to deflect, they'll pretend to care about black life. In this particular case, you can't even raise a reasonably decent case that you care at all about black life when you drop sub-Saharan African ends. So for him, like, the mask was all the way off with Avi Rockland. And so he just told you exactly what it is. Like, he couldn't even bother to dress up his racism. He didn't even just go ends. He went sub-Saharan African ends. He didn't just not dress up his racism. He put bells and whistles on his racism.
Well, state lawmakers first started talking about banning guns at the state capitol after a heavily armed group stormed the building to protest Governor Whitmer's lockdown mandates during the COVID era. Despite today's demonstration, the committee did send that proposed ban out to the full Senate for a vote.
Now, that just makes too much sense to assume because there was a threat against the sitting governor that they might want to secure the cap. That makes too much. That's just too clean, right? That's just too linear. It's gotta be anti-white because, again, what isn't anti-white? How come they raised the prices on Starburst, but the now and later still $3-4? That's anti-white. Now, this gentleman identified himself as Avi Rockland and said he was representing Groypers for America, I believe that's how you pronounce that, but I didn't even want to put it into my Google to figure out how you pronounce it, which, by the way, is a far-right extremist movement, according to the testimony card he submitted to the Michigan Senate Civil Rights, Judiciary, and Public Safety Committee. So just if you're wondering about some of the background, he, yes, is a member of a far-right extremist movement. Who would have known? Now, Rockland opened his remarks by contending that Democrats' efforts to push the gun prohibition for the state capitol and House and Senate buildings went against, quote, the will of the people who had voted to elect Donald Trump as president. Now, here is something fascinating for me. So if I got you right, you feel like the federal government should intervene on behalf of a smaller jurisdiction, let's call it a state, and what maniacal leadership they potentially might have in order to protect the people. So what you're telling me is you want bigger governmental control. Is that what you're saying? What you're saying is you want to diminish the will of the people there in Michigan because of what's going on federally. Is that what you're telling me? Because, oh boy, you're going to have to surrender that red hat, bro. Yeah. Nah, you got to surrender that red hat, man. You got to surrender the red hat. You got to, the Trump flag got to come too. Yeah, the Trump flag got to come too. I got some donkey paraphernalia you might be interested in, but this is going to be real uncomfortable when you go back to the Groypers for America and break the news that you lost your Republican card. Unless, of course, you are one of those people, and I know there are many, that actually isn't a Republican, you're just pro-white. And since they are the ones that are pushing the pro-white agenda, you're happy to go along with it, even in violation of your own political beliefs. By the way, these particular measures would prohibit guns inside the Michigan Capitol, the Anderson House office building, and the Bensfeld Senate office building in Lansing. They got a Senate office building in Lansing and they named that after Magic? I mean, really? What does the man got to do to get the Senate office? I mean, Bensfeld or Irvin? I mean, that's an easy one. However, a lawmaker with a concealed pistol license would still be able to carry a weapon inside the buildings. Currently, under a policy of the Michigan State Capitol Commission, guns are banned inside the Capitol. That standard doesn't apply to the House and Senate office buildings. Senator Dana Polahanki, one of the sponsors of the bill, has argued that lawmakers need to put the prohibition into law so a future commission can't change it on its own, saying it's very important to her to get the bills through the legislature by the end of the year before Republicans take back control of the State House. A representative from the NRA and Tom Lambert, legislative director of the group Michigan Open Carry, testified against the bills, Lambert saying that Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, a Democrat, would have prosecuted individuals if they pointed guns at lawmakers during protests in 2020. Michigan already has a law against brandishing a firearm, which would include pointing a gun in a threatening manner, Lambert noted. Now, here's a fascinating thing. Does the NRA ever take any of these cases off? I know they take the cases off whenever it's involving black folks. That I know. One thing I definitely know is if a brother happens to get accosted for having a gun, wrongfully detained for having a gun, or even worse, assaulted or even unalived just for having a gun, woo, that NRA be late. Boy, they be late, years late. I mean, that NRA cabinet full of black incidents gotta be deep, because they never come out. I can tell you that. Here's one. Was there ever any thought in the NRA offices, like, look, We know that there's no black people involved in this, so we like to participate when there's no black people involved in this. But this is carrying a firearm into the Capitol in a state where you just had a threat against the governor. Like, maybe just, you know what I mean? Just let that one. Nope, they showed up for that one. They showed up for that one. Got it. Now, as far as you are concerned, Michigan, we have a problem. Yeah. We have a problem, Michigan, because in very recent memory, not only have you given us that plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer.
Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, the alleged target of a foiled kidnapping plot.
2 militia groups who were preparing to kidnap and possibly kill me.
This morning, these 6 men are facing federal charges, another 7 facing state charges.
You also are the ones that have given us the undecideds. Yeah, the folks that thought that they were going to hold Kamala Harris accountable for decades of American foreign policy as vice president and give Donald Trump a free pass to use Palestinian as a slur.
A guy like Senator Schumer, I've always known him. I've known him a long time. I come from New York. I knew Schumer. He's become a Palestinian. He's a Palestinian now.
Like that you also gave us that. Also, Michigan, you also gave us Judge Kathleen Ryan. Yeah, you gave us Judge Kathleen Ryan, the new racist, the self-proclaimed new racist from the bench.
Now to an update on a story the 7 investigators first broke last month. A local judge accused of making racist and homophobic comments.
Well, tonight, 7 investigator Heather Catallo has obtained more recordings of the judge. Here's Heather with what she's learned now.
Judge Kathleen Ryan was removed from her docket in late August, and I have learned that investigators from the Judicial Tenure Commission have been conducting interviews about the judge's alleged behavior with employees at the Oakland County Probate Court. The question now is, will she be taken off the bench for good or allowed to go back to work?
I can honestly say that, okay, I'm not systemically racist, I'm a new racist.
The 7 investigators were the first to reveal the recordings that Oakland County officials say prompted Judge Kathleen Ryan's removal from her docket in August.
Black. I'm so off at this Black Lives Matter, hashtag Me Too, all this. Oh my God, I'm like, you rude just because of the nature of their color and the way America is, systemic racism, all that. Fine. But don't they have an obligation to step up to the plate too? I mean, think about it. All they have to do is look at their history, like the whole baby mamas and the dads taking off, and it's like you guys have an obligation too. You want us to treat you equally, you gotta step up and do the same job. You know, you don't get to be a lazy.
Yeah, you gave us Kathleen Ryan, and in that case, her fellow judges stood by her. That's right. Yeah. So it's not just Kathleen Ryan, it's the whole lot of them. That's what you've given us, Michigan. And by the way, I also haven't forgotten the Michigan GOP, which hit us with this. Yeah, the colored communism tweet. Yeah, they went with colored communism for a man having to defend being the duly elected mayor of a jurisdiction in Baltimore that just happened to have a bridge collision. So he must be DEI because, of course, that's always the mayor's doing. As nonsensical and, quite frankly, idiotic as that was, they went with colored communism. I don't know what's worse, going with colored or the fact that they sought to inject themselves at all. But I, for one, have not forgotten Michigan GOP. You gave us the militia threat. You gave us the undecideds. You gave us Judge Kathleen Ryan and her crew. And you gave us the Michigan GOP going with colored communism. And you still by the way, I ain't forgot, gave us the 2023-24 Detroit Pistons. You gave us 14-68. That is what you have subjected America to. And I can't think of few things worse than watching that decrepit squad. At least they look better this year, but I ain't forgot. I'm still scarred. I can't even watch basketball. And how you could do that to a black man trying to recover from the 2024 election, still being scarred, unable to find ways to distract himself because of how bad the Pistons looked last year. Y'all did that to me, Michigan. Today's nominee, these cornballs. Run the clip.
Hatred on display just hours ago in Columbus. A group of toting masked men marching through the short north, yelling racial slurs with a megaphone. The incident all caught on camera by our 10 TV viewers.
One of the funnier responses to this that I've seen online is people like, short north again? Now, I probably know Ohio a little better than your average person, given that my wife is from there. But I don't know it well enough to know the well-beaten path for where the nachos should show themselves and feel a level of comfort. I didn't realize it was like the good area of town for them.
Tonight, community leaders are condemning the hate. Governor Mike DeWine denouncing the group, saying there is no place in this state for hate, bigotry, anti-Semitism, or violence. Mayor Andrew Ginther and City Attorney Zach Klein echoing that sentiment. City Council President Shannon Hardin writing the president-elect has emboldened the group.
Now, this is where statements are helpful, but I need conversations. I appreciate the governor, Mike DeWine, denouncing this. I'm wondering where the widespread Republican denouncement of all of this is, to the point that was made about them being emboldened. Oh, we'll circle back around to that.
A Saturday afternoon interrupted by hate. Dwight Holland and his friend Dante Bell were enjoying the Ohio State game when they started hearing loud racial slurs coming from High Street.
Yes, this happened during the Ohio State game. These videos started popping up around 1:15 on Saturday on social media. If there was a period of time for you to just fold up your racism and put it in your back pocket, I'm not saying you gotta throw it away. If there was a window of time for you to just put your racism in the drawer just for a couple of hours, it would be during the Ohio State game. I mean, you couldn't even pretend during the Ohio State game, which, by the way, is quite ironic, because that was one of my immediate reactions to all of this, is the many ways in which we have to pretend as if people don't have the complete lack of empathy, compassion, or care at all for the experiences of others. And we have so many mechanisms for us to pretend as if that's not the case, chief among them being sports. We've seen it in Florida, where they were so hostile towards black folks that the NAACP had to give a travel advisory for black people in Florida. This come amidst of them deconstructing all manner of DEI and diversity efforts, to the point where Florida's incoming class looking like this, but the football team looking like this. Now, it was just a matter of time before folks started speaking out about this. I'm one that's just been beating this drum for the longest time, and I applaud Emmitt Smith for finally saying what needed to be said. Okay, back to Ohio.
They walked past our block and all we heard was,
bruh, you couldn't put that down to appear on the news? I mean, it ain't gonna be but 30 seconds. Just go ahead. Just go ahead, man.
They walked past our block and all we heard was hate, kill, go. For real, y'all came out here like that?
They got their phones out and started filming as members of the group yelled slurs at them.
Why y'all hiding y'all's faces?
Holland yelled back, asking the neo to take their masks off and show themselves.
This I found interesting. So you're taking video from the back of a Nacho March where you have your face covered. I'm trying to figure out, you just wanted content of black people? Like, I don't understand. Like, normally when you go on a nice vacation, you like to take footage of yourself. That don't really work when you have your face covered. So I'm unsure of exactly what you're doing, trying to capture. Is this for a Christmas card? Is this for the Nacho Christmas card? I don't know what he was doing with that one.
What made you want to do that?
Well, most of them are cowards. You know, they don't want to show their faces. Like the KKK, they wear the hoods and whatnot. But I mean, it's like it says, it's 2024.
That's right. It is 2024. And somehow, as many times as this point has been made about your unwillingness to show your face, they still see that as a flex. And by the way, it is no different than the people online with the wraparound sunglasses or the dog or the Bible verse in their handle that won't show their face, but got so much chesty things to say under other people's posts.
You know, you don't deserve to be out here on the streets with the whole racial bigotry. It's time to be real. We in 2024. Come on, how many years do we got to go through this?
Well, that is a good question. It is 2024, and unfortunately, all progress is not linear. Yeah, there's one lesson to take from 2024. It would be that one.
In North Columbus, Sophia Pierre-Luce learned about the neo-Nazis march while taking part in a Haitian festival organized with intention to quell hatred and racism.
But it seems like it's not, because I just find out just now that they have the group of people walking the streets.
Wow, that's crazy. They actually found a Haitian in Ohio. Wow. I mean, you know how long the Republicans been looking for an actual Haitian in Ohio that could appear in front of the media, and here they got one. Wow, you know, what's her diet like?
She immigrated to the U.S. as a teenager and has been horrified to witness the hateful rhetoric about Haitian migrants in Springfield that made headlines during the election cycle.
We are here. We've been here years ago. There was nothing before. Everyone was working the same places, eating the same restaurant, doing everything. So why going back? Why are we going to start something that was not before?
Now that is a really good question. Why are we going back exactly? I have an idea.
But I want to know how it is you voted for Donald Trump when you're so into facts, because his entire campaign is not based in facts. It was all based in propaganda and emotion.
I voted for Donald Trump for one reason only. His policies, if implemented, would slow the dispossession of whites in the United States.
This festival meant to be a safe space to celebrate culture. Pierre-Luce joins Holland and Bell in calling for an end to hate of all kinds.
I just want us to all be peaceful.
Now is the time that we should unite as one in the community, and also try to know who we are.
Police did end up confronting that group of neo-Nazis over on Goodale Street, but they tell us that no one was arrested. They also tell us that no one was injured. In Mayor Ginther's statement, he mentions that he will work with the Columbus Police Department to continue to monitor the situation.
I know, no arrests were made. Shocking, right? Shocking. It kind of reminds me of what went down in Nashville. Yeah, both from the nachos and from the authorities.
Where's your parents?
You got a light brain, bud.
God, I love little fucking monkeys like that. It just shows how fucking violent they are at a young age.
Your frontal lobe is 2 ounces lighter, bud.
Now here's a question. So you are making an argument that you are genetically superior. Why aren't you at work?
Do you need some money?
But Nashville was not playing. They taught everybody how to talk down on these people.
Honestly, I think my overriding feeling was sadness. These are really pathetic human beings, and they just don't seem to recognize it. Frankly, I think that's how most of Nashville and Middle Tennessee views them as well.
Yeah, just so angry at the world.
And sad.
All right, Columbus, what you gonna do?
A group of around 12 chanting racist speech throughout the short North Saturday afternoon.
I was outraged and I felt disrespected.
In response, Columbus community leaders uniting together Sunday, marching against the demonstration.
Really want to have a counterweight to what happened yesterday, and really just of the mind that hate doesn't get to have the last word, that injustice doesn't get to have the last word, that bigotry doesn't get to have the last word, that there are people of different orientations, different backgrounds, different organizations that are all just on the side of what's right. And we're all here walking up the street to declare that righteousness is the last word in our city.
Walking 2 by 2, the exact route on High Street where the group yelled racial slurs a day prior. These community members taking a quieter approach, standing together, silent in solidarity against hate.
We're not backing down, we're not running, we're not scared. You understand? We're here. Our presence is going to be felt from now on, period. I think the men that you see behind me are strong black men, great fathers, great grandfathers, and they've seen enough, they've heard enough. And then it's time for us as black men to make sure that our kids see us in a positive, making a positive impact as well.
Their message of unity resonating as people applaud them from inside stores.
Not going to hide behind a mask, not going to run. I see when this is so vile and so disrespectful, no, simply cannot be.
I like it. I like it. That is very well handled from the community in Columbus. Now, to the point that was brought up initially about them being emboldened by the president-elect, I just have to ask, because the assertion is always that this doesn't represent us, this doesn't represent the party. Hey, I can't help that they just happen to love us so much consistently. And all together as a group, all these ragtag groups of avowed white supremacists all have come to the same conclusion, and that's not a red flag. Cause that would bother me. You know what I mean? I gotta think that would happen to bother me, but they always just around. You know, even came to the boat party. Yeah, that's how much they just be around. Now, there was a report from a caller who said that one of the people in the group actually pepper sprayed or maced passersby. That was, of course, in addition to the slurs about Jewish people and black people and white power. Now, I do want to direct attention to a statement which was made on Columbus-based civil rights advocate and attorney Sean Walton Jr.'s website, where he said that the events were both alarming and unacceptable and a direct assault on the values we hold dear as a community. Let me be clear, hate has no home here. The actions of these protesters undermine the very fabric of what makes us strong, our diversity, unity, and shared commitment to justice and happiness for all. While their goal may be to divide us, we must resist the temptation to respond with the same hate and aggression they spew. Instead, we must rise above and respond with the enduring power of love, resistance, and collective commitment to community. He also called on elected officials and police to thoroughly investigate those involved and to take swift collaborative steps to ensure that such actions are prevented in the future. Now, to the point that he made about elected officials thoroughly investigating things and denouncing this, we saw this locally. I I'm going to need to see this nationally. Yeah, because everybody always points to what happened in Charlottesville, but do you know how many demonstrations there have been since then? And I, for one, am looking for the widespread denouncement and repudiation of these kinds of actions that reflects the idea that this isn't who you are, because until that happens, those your peoples. I mean, they love you. And just when I had finished dragging Michigan for their litany of offenses,
if we want to address gun violence, we would be focusing on the people who bring guns into communities and shoot people, like where I live in Detroit and where you represent, Stephanie Chang, which are overwhelmingly 13 to 34-year-old sub-Saharan African.
Now to an update on a story the 7 investigators first broke last month. A local judge accused of making racist and homophobic comments.
Well, tonight, 7 investigator Heather Catallo has obtained more recordings of the judge. Here's Heather with what she's learned now.
Judge Kathleen Ryan was removed from her docket in late August, and I have learned that investigators from the Judicial Tenure Commission have been conducting interviews about the judge's alleged behavior with employees at the Oakland County Probate Court. The question now is, will she be taken off the bench for good or allowed to go back to work?
I can honestly say that, okay, I'm not systemically racist, I'm a new racist.
The 7 investigators were the first to reveal the recordings that Oakland County officials say prompted Judge Kathleen Ryan's removal from her docket in August.
Black. I'm so off at this Black Lives Matter, hashtag Me Too, all this. Oh my God, I'm like, you just because of the nature of their color and the way America is, systemic racism, all that. Fine. But don't they have an obligation to step up to the plate too? I mean, think about it. All they have to do is look at their history, like the whole baby mamas and the dads taking off, and it's like you guys have an obligation too. You want us to treat you equally, you got to step up and do the same job. You know, you don't get to be a lazy.
2023-24 Detroit Pistons. You gave us 14 and 68. That is what you have subjected America to. Man, got the Big Ten out here looking bad. Yeah, the Big Ten out here looking bad. Now I see why Oregon joined the Big Ten. David Douglas High School football team in Portland has competed in 3 away games against rival high schools in Oregon so far this season, and each game brought a deplorable barrage of racial hate speech and behavior. According to the coaches, black players have been subjected to monkey sounds, chants of the N-word, and being called King Kong. Quote, I've coached and played all around the nation and also have played or coached internationally. Never have I witnessed this level of racism on the playing field. That was according to assistant coach Marcel Frazier. Yeah, now I see why Oregon joined the Big Ten. Today's nominee, RFK Jr. You haven't been here in a while, RFK Jr. I haven't talked about you since the whole family came out in opposition to you running.
President Biden has been a champion for all the rights and freedoms that my father and uncle stood for. That's why nearly every single grandchild of Joe and Rose Kennedy supports Joe Biden.
You know, let that be a lesson. Never trust anybody whose whole family is against him. I thought we learned that with the Jacksons. But one thing I can say is just because I haven't seen fit to address you doesn't mean it wasn't warranted.
At the wake, Bobby Kennedy said he did everything he could to help her. 1 week later, in the middle of the night, without telling anybody in her family or obtaining the required legal permits, Bobby Jr. had Mary's coffin dug up from the Kennedy family plot and moved 700 feet away. Mary was left to face traffic with no headstone marking her grave, buried alone.
Well, at least his current wife can feel some level of security. And once again, I would like to highlight what happens when you excuse bad behavior, because you're not going to tell me that you had no idea the level of disregard this man had for his first wife. Now look at you.
You pull their asshole open, step into their asshole, close the door behind you, take a spray paint can, right? Larry was here. You spray paint, Larry was here, wash me, all that kind of shit. Fuck his whole asshole up. These some Snicker bars, throw some paper on the floor, read a newspaper, ball of paper up the newspaper, and throw the newspaper on the floor. Fuck his whole asshole up.
Yeah. No, all right, look, I'll curb my enthusiasm when it comes to your downfall, but it's still gonna go mentioned. Now, for the reason why we've all shown up here today, run the clip.
So I don't think you can change that part of human nature. What you can do is you can make kids resilient against it. And the way you do that is by giving them a great education so that they know that they have potential. And the other thing is to give them business models, role models, and opportunities within their own neighborhood. You know, black men who are running barbershops, who are running bars, who are running dance studios, who are running local businesses, restaurants, etc., and who are part of that community. And you know, when I was a kid, my uncle was the first Irish Catholic president of our country, and when he ran for president, there was a tremendous resurgence in anti-Catholic sentiment in this country, and a resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan. I remember crosses being burned when I was a kid against an anti-Catholic president. A lot of other, I was called a Mick, a mackerel snatcher, all these anti-Catholic slurs when I was a kid. But it never bothered me. If somebody called me that, I would think that guy's got a problem. But I didn't think I have a problem. And that because I had a great education, I had a family who loved me, I had role models in my country, I had confidence in my own future. Oh, you know, those kind of things had no impact on me. And that's the kind of resilience that we want to give the black American children, so that they have so much confidence in their own future that when they do encounter the inevitable racism, that it will bounce off them, that they'll be, you know, like the Avengers, they'll be immune to it. And then we don't have to stop racism altogether, because we're never going to be able to do that, but we can have children that are not affected by it, that don't internalize it, that don't see it as their problem. They see it as the person whose racist problem.
Now let me first.
Every black person who was sitting there listening to Robert F. Kennedy, if they didn't cuss his monkey ass out, shame on all they sorry asses.
I mean, I was gonna say something like that, but
real simple, Robert F. Kennedy, fuck you.
I was gonna get there. You know what? Let's see how we got to that particular clip. Let's go to the very beginning.
I'm going to say this, a lot of the liberal energy to deal with racism, systemic racism in this country, has been directed at trying to make people so they're not racist anymore. Through education, through sanctions, through cancellation, whatever. And all of these things are important. But I would say that we're never going to eliminate racism. We are hardwired from the 20,000 generations that humanity spent wandering the African savannah in little tribal groups. We're hardwired to look for differences in other people and then to essentially practice racism.
Now, let me say, first of all, I don't altogether disagree with this assertion. Now, to the beginning, where you're talking about, you know, taking classes and things like that, I don't know how useful that is. In my opinion, the best harbinger for a non-racist person is exposure. Typically, people that are exposed to other groups tend to be a lot less racist. Now, you could maybe figure out nature versus nurture when it comes to cities. Obviously, people that grow up in cities are exposed to lots of different kinds of people, but people that also are more tolerant tend to flock to cities. So you could kind of argue a chicken or the egg thing there. But as far as the nature of humanity to find ways to be tribal, not necessarily racist, but tribal, I would tend to agree with that. Whatever that line tends to be that you can draw in the sand and convince people to come over to your side and allow yourself a sense of protection and an advantage to compete for scarce resources. I do think that is the kind of thing that is hardwired into human nature. What are we going to do about it, though? What are we gonna do about it? As somebody who's going into the cabinet, what are you going to do about it?
So I don't think you can change that part of human nature. What you can do is you can make kids resilient against it.
Oh, wow. You got a supplement or something? You got a anti-racist supplement? Huh? Is it some kind of worm you can implant that makes them resilient against racism?
And the way you do that is by giving them a great education so that they know that they have potential.
If they didn't cuss his monkey ass out.
I got a question. Yeah, so see the racism that you already have outlined affects people's abilities to get a good education. Yeah, they have been pulling from the public school system for years, and that's something that increasingly Black people are reliant on based on wealth inequality, which goes back to long-standing racist policies and racial violence and all kinds of stuff like that. You get what I'm saying. So your ability to just get a good education is affected by the racism. But I mean, you're going into the cabinet, so I'm sure you know this, right? And here I am wondering why all these all-Black prep schools can't fill up their roster. You know what I mean? All these all-Black prep schools just sitting here waiting for people to walk in and take this free scholarship, and they don't want it. They rather go to the public school with the metal detector.
And the other thing is to give them business models, role models, and opportunities within their own neighborhood.
If they didn't cuss his monkey ass out.
I got another. So in order for them to have models and role models, then there has to be a lot of successful people around them, and the people around them are operating in this system with the racism. So their ability to have role models that look like them and give them a sense of confidence is affected by the racism. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, I know that maybe you might think that they live on a different planet, and they kind of are their own ecosystem, but it's actually, yeah. Like when they say the inner city, that means like part of the city, which is part of the state.
You know, Black men who are running barbershops, who are running bars, who are running dance studios.
Oh, I'm glad he came with dance studios, because that was going nowhere fast. That was going nowhere fast. He gave me a barbershop and a bar. I was like, we going to a gun store next? You know, Dollar Tree is furious they didn't get a mention.
Local businesses, restaurants, etc., and who are part of that community. And you know, when I was a kid, my uncle was the first Irish Catholic president of our country, and when he ran for president, there was a tremendous resurgence in anti-Catholic sentiment in this country.
Don't do that. Don't. You're gonna do that? To Black people. Good luck.
And a resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan. I remember crosses being burned when I was a kid against an anti-Catholic president.
You hear the sirens. They try and stop you. They are trying to stop you from talking about your own racism in front of Black people. The authorities trying to save you from yourself, Robert.
A lot of I was called a Mick, a mackerel snatcher, all these anti-Catholic slurs when I was a kid.
Did you say mackerel snatcher? Did you say mackerel snatcher? That's mackerel, like the fish. Just go ahead. Just play the clip.
But it never bothered me. If somebody called me that, I would think that guy's got a problem.
He does. He called you a mackerel snatcher.
But I didn't think I have a problem. And that because I had a great education, I had a family who loved me, I had role models in my country, I had confidence in my own future.
If they didn't cuss his monkey ass out.
Okay, so if I just take your own explanation, the ways in which you felt immune and invulnerable to the racism is because of your family and your role models and your education. Now, I just outlined how all of those things are affected by the racism, with the one notable exception that you also happen to be a Kennedy. So there's that. There's all of the wealth and prestige that comes with being a Kennedy, as well as the fail-safe underneath you that you move forward with that allowed you to feel invulnerable to the racism. So here's a quick thought experiment, right? RFK, here's a quick thought experiment. Just take all of those away. Yeah, just take all of those, like all of the reasons that you gave, that you felt invulnerable to the racism. Just take all those away. Yeah. And also keep in mind that moving forward, your ability to attain those things for yourself are impacted by the racism. Yeah, you wasn't thinking like that. Yeah, that's how it goes.
Oh, those kind of things had no impact on me. And that's the kind of resilience that we want to give the Black American children, so that they have so much confidence in their own future that when they do encounter the inevitable racism, that it will bounce off them, that they'll be, like the Avengers, they'll be immune to it.
If they didn't cuss his monkey ass out.
I like this. No, because if you listen to what he said, he said that's the kind of immunity they want to give Black children. So he's talking about the education and the family and the wealth and the success and the role models. So what you're saying is you want Black children to grow up like a Kennedy. So you're gonna give them all the money and no, they're not gonna get the money. They get the education? No. They get the role models? Huh. So wait a minute. So how does it work if you just said what made you feel invulnerable? So how you gonna give it to them if you're not gonna give them this?
And then we don't have to stop racism altogether, because we're never going to be able to do that. But we can have children that are not affected by it, that don't internalize it, that don't see it as their problem. They see it as the person whose race is problem.
So the rule is we don't have to stop racism. We just gonna let them become wealthy and successful enough to ignore it. But since we can't transfer the Kennedy existence to the children, then they just ignore it. Is that really what you're getting at? Yeah. I got just like a little tiny thing. So one of the issues is that you talking about racism amongst children, but the kind of racism you talking about also affects people's hiring decisions. It affects people's, loan decisions. It affects who gets into social clubs and social groups and all that kind of stuff. It actually can have material impact, the kind of racism that you're talking about. So Just ignore it. Just okay.
All of the homes around him, which were largely black owned, were getting the bad stuff. But they were making sure that the mayor got to drink the good water. And so
that's it. That's exactly the kind of racism. That's exactly what I was talking about.
And I ended up over my career seeing this again and again and again. You know, Navajo youths have 1,000 times the rate of sexual organ cancer as other Americans, because the tens of thousands of tons of toxic, of radioactive uranium tailings that are dumped on their land.
Okay, yeah.
There's 76,000 Hispanic farm workers that are poisoned by pesticide every year, and their families are destroyed by that poisoning. And you know, it's not usually, in my view, overt racism. It's really economic. These are communities where there's nobody in that community that can call the mayor.
Okay, so it's not overt racism, it's economic. But when the economic realities have been affected by long-standing and systemic racism, you cannot separate the racism from the economic. This is somebody that's going to be in the cabinet. Yeah, who's making this case?
Real simple, Robert F. Kennedy. Fuck you.
Yeah. Now I see where you're coming from. I need to wonder what these people that are listening to him are thinking. My man on the right looks like he's about through. He looks like, I don't know if he's disgusted by what he heard from RFK Jr. or the fact that my man has an electric blue suit on. I'm not sure exactly what he's more appalled by, but both are highly objectionable. At the same token, y'all did show up to the Blacks for Kennedy event. So I mean, this is what y'all signed up for. They might be extras. They might be. We know they are not past extras. So keep that in mind. While we're on the topic of race and education, why are they in an elementary school classroom? I need to know why is the Blacks for Kennedy event being held in somebody's language arts room? Like I need to. They just finished social studies for them to start this. Then you have lots of different kinds of people as they interface with black people and racism. You have people that won't acknowledge it at all, just get over it. Here you have somebody that will acknowledge it because he experienced it, but he thinks that you can just ignore it by virtue of being a Kennedy, which ignores the larger reality of black kids not, being Kennedys. And in doing so, really reinforces the opinion of the other group, which is that my experience is really the only one that I could possibly consider. And these are the people that we have to contend with when it comes to getting any amount of justice, or at the very least, understanding moving forward as black people. Sensational. I will give anything to know the conversation that all the black people that were there had when he left. Like I need some more footage. I need some more footage. Somebody get on that.
Every black person who was sitting there listening to Robert F. Kennedy, if they didn't cuss his monkey ass out, shame on all they sorry asses.
Now, I do want to congratulate all of this month's nominees, be it Elon Musk, the Michigan gun activist, the Nachos in Columbus, RFK. RFK was wild. That really, he came in late. Like y'all not gonna have this competition without me putting in for Kennedy. Congratulations to all this month's nominees. You guys let me know who your winner is. I'm gonna put a poll in the community tab, or you could drop it in the comments as well. And be on the lookout for more next month. Oh yeah, it's gonna be more next month. Hey, I hope you guys had a wonderful start to your holiday. Shout out to all of our subscribers and members here on the channel, especially those who submitted possibilities and ideas for merch. You will see the results on my website, reesewaters.com. We got a ton of stuff. There's mugs there. There's t-shirts there, especially my depleted but never defeated t-shirt, which you guys really seem to enjoy. So keep sending in your ideas for possibilities at reesewaters.com. I also want to mention I was messing around on my phone and I happened to see that YouTube actually tells me who the most active members are on the channel. It's too many of you guys to name, but I wanted to give you guys a special nod, and I'll tip my cap whenever I possibly can. I've been talking to a lot of different people, and I think next year we'll probably have some new projects on the way, some special lives and some special projects specifically for the members. So be on the lookout for that. I can't wait to get started. And by the way, the link to membership is in the description box to all of my videos. So just go to a recent video and you will find the link to membership right there.